The Princes in the Tower, Part 1, A Kingdom in Turmoil. Soft, calm narration begins. Our story takes us back to England in the spring of 1483, to a realm that had only recently emerged from decades of bitter civil war. The Wars of the Roses, a conflict between the houses of York and Lancaster for the throne of England, had finally seemed to settle into an uneasy peace under King Edward IV of the House of York. Edward IV had ruled England for over 20 years, bringing stability after the chaos of civil war. He was a tall, handsome king, standing over 6 feet in height, which was remarkable for the time. Edward had married Elizabeth Woodville, a beautiful widow of lesser nobility, in a secret ceremony in 1464, a love match that had scandalized the court and created tensions with powerful nobles who expected a more politically advantageous marriage. From this marriage came many children, but 2 sons would become central to our story. The elder was Edward, born on November 2, 1470, in Westminster Abbey during a period when his father had temporarily lost the throne. The younger was Richard, Duke of York, born on August 17, 1473, at Shrewsbury. These 2 boys grew up in the royal household, princes of the realm, heir and spare to the throne of England. Young Edward, as the eldest son, held the title Prince of Wales from an early age, the traditional designation for the heir apparent to the English throne. He was raised partly at Ludlow Castle on the Welsh border, where he was given his own household and council to prepare him for his future role as king. By all accounts, he was a serious, studious boy, educated in the manner befitting a future monarch. His younger brother Richard was created Duke of York in 1474, when he was just a year old, and later became Duke of Norfolk as well. The 2 brothers grew up in the protected world of royal privilege, unaware of the storm that was gathering around them. Then, on April 9, 1483, everything changed. King Edward IV died suddenly at Westminster Palace at the age of just 40. The exact cause of his death remains uncertain, though some contemporary accounts suggest it may have been pneumonia or possibly typhoid fever. His death was unexpected, and it threw the kingdom into immediate uncertainty. At the time of his father's death, young Edward, now King Edward V, was just 12 years old. He was at Ludlow Castle in the care of his maternal uncle, Anthony Woodville, Earl Rivers, when news of his father's death reached him. According to the late king's will, young Edward was to assume the throne, but given his age, a regency would need to govern until he came of age. The late King Edward IV had made provisions for this possibility. He had appointed his younger brother, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, as Lord Protector of the realm. Richard was an experienced military commander and administrator who had served his brother loyally throughout his reign, governing the north of England with notable effectiveness. At 30 years old, Richard was considered capable and trustworthy to guide his young nephew through the vulnerable years of minority rule. But the political situation was far more complex than it appeared. The Woodville family, relatives of the young king's mother, Queen Elizabeth Woodville, held significant power and influence at court. They had accumulated wealth, titles, and positions during King Edward's reign, and some of the older nobility resented their rise. Now, with the old king dead and a child on the throne, different factions began maneuvering for control. As young Edward prepared to travel from Ludlow to London for his coronation, accompanied by his uncle Earl Rivers in a retinue of about 2,000 men, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, was making his own journey south from his estates in Yorkshire. The two parties arranged to meet at Northampton on April 29, 1483, before continuing together to London.